And Osta, Yahweh, Osio. My name's Richard Taylor Stewart to some people. Yeah, that's it. Is it? Oh, it's there. Okay. Excellent, excellent. Been a good conference. I've enjoyed everything everybody had to say. I was kind of expecting, maybe a lot of inexperienced people, but man, there's a ton of experience here. But my theme was the highly elusive Bigfoot Sasquatch subject, and we can go over some stuff. But I've learned some things about these. Anybody that thinks they know everything about these subjects, you're a liar, and the truth's not in you, because when you think you have something figured out, they throw another curveball in there, makes you scratch your head. But this particular picture here, you can see way in the background is where the day watcher's hiding, and then I've got the enhanced zoomed in version. They're very good about cover and concealment, about the techniques that they use to avoid detection. And it's a lot of reason why we don't often see them easily, but I don't know, it kind of developed at Arla's place, is that they're not threatening and they're accommodating, flowers on the ground and everything. But if you know a few ways or things about them, they'll comply. I got to figure okay, good. Anybody recognize this slide? Yeah, I'm going to use the touch screen. I'm going to forget the buttons on the bottom. This is Yosemite National Park. I grew up in the land of fruits and nuts. My dad's from Arkansas, my mom's from Oklahoma. She had a horrible life growing up in near Tahlequah, North Iron Post. My full-blood Cherokee grandmother died of malnutrition and poor health care. I won't get into that, but my people aren't a crier, they're a doer, and you overcome. We don't all get 4 aces in the hand in life. You make what you do and you do the best you can. But anyway, they moved out there. I grew up about 91 miles from this place, and I hunted, fished, camped, hiked in the Sierra Nevada mountains, prime Bigfoot territory, and I can't recall ever hearing or seeing anything that would have made me believe they existed. Now I can look back now and, oh yeah, I remember that sound, and a few little things, but they were very subtle. I never saw anything that made me want to believe in Bigfoot, and I was in some prime areas. And so I just want to go through, well, I'm not going to, it's not, there it goes. Jason Stevens did a compilation of 3,313 sightings, not reports, stretching over, I don't think you can read it, maybe too dim, but it's over 92 years. You can see the U.S. there. West Coast has a lot of dots and everything. It's kind of spreads out in the Midwest. Texas has a few. Appalachian and the Florida area obviously has a lot of dots there. But to put this in context, he has 315 million on the population there. It's about 325 million in the U.S. If you take these 313 reports, it figures out to about 1 in 10,000 people. If you want to throw in BFR on these other sightings, it may come down to a 1 in 5,000 or 1 in 1,000. So overall, in the general population, some of the reasons people are skeptical is not a lot of people at least admit seeing it. I'm sure there's maybe hundreds, if not thousands, that don't report it, but in context, it's very rare. So if you've had a sighting, you're very fortunate or unfortunate, depending on where you are in life. I just want to bring that out. Another thing, developed land. Despite all of the, the wrangling, only 66 million acres of land is considered developed. That figures to about 3% of the total land area, and yet 75% of the population lives there. If anybody doesn't think there's a whole lot of land that we don't ever go into that can hide these individuals, I drove from Texas and went hundreds of miles on interstate with nothing but thick, undeveloped woods on both sides of the highway. There's a whole lot out there where they can hide and never be bothered, but they do come in close, and they do dumpster diving and other things to supplement their diet. That's why they're around here. It's a good food source. Just because somebody doesn't see something, is that definitive evidence that it doesn't exist? And yet these naysayers keep pounding on that. Give you an example, and I'm sure you recognize this. Some of you might. If you crossed a leaded door there, heavily leaded door, and opened the door and stepped in, do you think you would be aware of anything existing that may harm you? No. That's why you've got this big international sign, nuclear warning. This is international sign. You better not go there. And yet people say, well, if there's out there, I'd never see it. Give you an example of what we do see. This is our visible spectrum of light. It's that little sliver in that long graph of the whole electromagnetic scale. You can see the gamma rays, X-rays at one end. You can see the radio waves at the other. We've got voices and images in this room, but we don't have a TV or a receiver to see it. It's here. It exists. You've got infrared, probably 100 times more light that our eyes don't pick up. There's reasons people don't see certain things, and just because you don't see it or aware, it doesn't mean it's not there. You can go on. I may hit this a little faster. Southern iced tea. What happens to the glass? Does somebody come up there and spray water on it? No. The air holds water vapor. We've got water. I dare say there's probably gallons of water vapor in this room. When you cool air, the air loses its ability to hold some of the water. That's how you get rain, the thunderstorms. Basically, 1 cubic meter of air at 77 degrees holds 22 grams of water. To put it in a better understanding, about 3/4 of a shot glass. Clearly. But anyway, water's around us, yet we don't see it. I'll get to the meat here, and I'm trying to get a hurry, but I was wanting to lay the base for naysayers and skeptics that might not understand this. Anybody see anything there that would concern you? I didn't see anything either last year in the Sam Houston National Forest. If you look closely, it's a copperhead snake. Right there, you can see. Fortunately, copperheads are not as aggressive as rattlesnakes or that god-awful water moccasins. I hate those things. I stepped over the snake and he didn't strike, but I didn't see it. Okay, he's there, he blends in. And I just go over some examples of cover and concealment. One other aspect is lighting. Anybody that's done photography or video, lighting is important. You can hardly see this little young man sitting on a railroad tracks because he's blending in, and I'll show you some slides of a couple of them looking at me, and they're using the light. There's many reasons why people don't see these things, and I've given you a few. I'll touch one time on sound, and we've talked about it already. But this little walnut shape is what we normally hear. It's called the auditory field. Conversation is down in that little circle. Sometimes it's in the spectrum that we can hear it, but it's just not loud enough. You've got your decibels on the side. But right at that threshold of infrasound, you can see a little point there. If it's loud enough, we may pick it up. Same on the ultrasound. We may not hear the sounds, and I'll show you one here. I think it's the next slide. No, I had one slide. I wanted to, bait and trap endeavors have a low rate of success. You're not going to trick these, subjects. They know already. But their big Achilles heel is they are curious. You get into an area and you're hanging out, they want to know what you're doing there, what you're up to. And many times, I've had them come to me. I don't have to go to them. You get out there, they know you're there. If you're doing, well, especially drumming and music, they love that stuff. Laughing, kids playing, man, that's a magnet for them. So, all right, back up, Rick. One of the things I've noticed is they'll use levels of cover, second and third levels of cover. One person taught me real early, you see the gap down there? They call those windows. That's what they related to me. You got to look through the window and go to your second or third levels of cover. And if you were moving from the right to the left on that bottom X, the subject hiding in that second level of cover will shift. He'll keep the window in view where they can watch you. We're kind of trained or acclimated to look at the closest areas of cover, and we neglect what's further back. They use that to the advantage that you won't see them. Second, third level sometime. I was in Oklahoma. I was there for insurance purposes. It was a remote well site. Only the bulldozer driver and me were there. And I had gone out and looked at some damaged equipment. It was in July in Oklahoma. I got back in the truck and cranked up the air conditioning. I'm doing my notes. Got that feeling of being watched. It got stronger and stronger, and I went, oh, shoot. So I put my stuff down, and I'm looking through the truck window, and I look to the far right, and when I get over there, I'm looking into the other levels of cover. I see something drop and hide, and I watch it for a little while. It doesn't come back up, so I begin to turn my head, but I keep looking to my right. And apparently the glare of the window prevented them from seeing where my eyes were. They got back up and they moved over. They shifted. And this is the picture I took. It's 20 miles west of Talihina. I've got him circled. You can see the top of his head and his left elbow and part of his torso. Where he was when I first looked was over here. And then he dropped down and he shifted over, and he's doing a side peek there at me. And I'd gotten my camera, and I acted like I was taking a picture there, but I took it to my right. And right after I flashed the picture with the company camera, he took off. He knew he'd been had. This is a closer view, and it's not showing real well. You can see his cheek and eye kind of side peeking around the bush. I'll show you some other examples later. This isn't the clearest example, but it was one of the ones to show, and I'll have to back up to show you. First area of cover, second and third. He's using those gaps to watch me. He's looking through the gaps between those trees. He's back in that second level of cover. Most people, and you got to understand, this is at 7 power. That's a telephoto. He was probably about 50 to 70 yards back. These trees were about the 30-yard mark. So he was back there a ways. But I was looking through the gaps and kind of, knowing which direction to look. What they do is, this is a Potomac, he's Union. Potomac picket, sentry, call them different names there. He's up in a tree. The reason you're up in trees is you've got a better vantage point. How many people actually scan the trees when you're going through the forest? We're acclimated. Well, I'm here with experience, but most people, it's on the level plane of where they walk. They don't think about looking up. And these subjects do that very well. They understand that. But this guy here is kind of a forward observer, and the big guys do it too. This was taken in Shelby County, Texas. This guy's 500 and I think 28 yards. GPS waypoints later when we identified the area. I'll show the video here in a little while, but he's just sitting up in their tree. Arla and about a dozen other people are down where I was. I got the feeling of being watched. I walked away from the crowd and I said, "Okay, big boy, I can feel you watching me. Where are you?" And a hoot come from up the ridge there, and you'll hear it in the video there. But I wasn't. Arla had already keyed on him earlier. A lot of the people didn't understand it, but I mean, you couldn't have. He looked like a dot up on the ridge, but he was up there in the tree, and I'll show you the video here in a little while. This is my first catching one of the big guys up in a tree, or at least elevated off the ground. We're newbies here, okay? You'll hear me say, "Are you serious?" You know, I mean, we're running a fence line. I got tired of going to the conferences. I wasn't getting answers. I said, "Hey, look, I'm going out there and we're gonna learn this thing ourselves." Of course, Arla helped us tremendously. But I'm walking and I don't have a GoPro. It's a small Wonder. I got it taped to my ball cap. It's kind of narrow, but I figured if anything runs across the right of way as we're walking, I'll catch it. Tim sees this subject.
What?
Do you see where that very last well-looking thing is?
Yeah?
Do you see the bush? It's really green sticking out to the left of it?
Yeah?
I swear I just saw like a dark figure there.
Seriously?
You know, he keys on that. Okay, this is the slow motion version. I got it marked. You need to look above where that red line ends to show you how subtle they are. Little light spot there. It's over 100 yards away. I don't know how Tim found it, but you'll see a little dark shape do a quick up and peak. Anyway, it's hard to see. This is the enhanced picture of it. Head and shoulders. He's up in a tree at over 100 yards away. How many people are going to see that? I mean, Tim was like a watch. I mean, I don't know how he saw it. I'm just jogging along, you know, I mean, walking, and he said, "You see that?" You know, and he points it out to me. That was my first, and it's not clear because I don't have high dollar stuff, but that's him taking a side peek. It's one of those forward observers. They are the ones that are the outer line of maybe call it defense or watchmen. Now we found later, we had one cross the trail. This is dried creek bed. You got the toe digs. The one big toe actually broke a piece. That's why I didn't move it. It's actually outline of the toe. They were moving pretty good, and it's dry clay that just, you know, it wasn't a good one to cast. I don't know how long it was, but it was about 7.5 inches wide. Things in the trees, a lot of people hear tree structures. At this time, they were being pointed out to me, and I'm kind of, oh, okay, you know. I was just learning, you know, but these people were really excited. We had woven branches and stuff, making brush arbors and shelters. Now I learned to kind of appreciate it later, but this is basically a little graph. You'll have a family group and you'll have the day watchers in a circle around. If anybody, I call them an intruder, we'll better call it a visitor, all they have to do is knock, whoop, give some kind of sound, that whole group there. It doesn't have to be a lot of dialogue, boom. They know, you know, day watcher out there has got a visual on somebody. That way the family group, without identifying their position, they can either retreat further into the woods, they can flank them, go left or right, above, or if the visitor, I'll call them visitor, gets too close, you got a couple of day watchers that can start chunking rocks or whooping and distract the visitor from the main family group or young. It's a defense, it's basic tactics. Anybody in the military can understand some of this. They use some of the same tactics not to be bothered or discovered. Especially, what is those people killing Bigfoot? You know, there's stupid people like that. This is it'll probably come out. This is one call I heard that is just, it hardly could hear it, but one of them, when we were in there, made this sound. Kind of a oohing sound. Right there at the end, another researcher asked me, what do you hear? And I said, it's kind of an oohing sound. Kind of a oohing sound. Almost sounds electronic. You know, it had a warble to it. One more time. Kind of a oohing sound. Very high. I could barely hear it. They weren't even hearing it. I said, can you hear that? You know, well, one crossed the trail, or a shape crossed the trail in front of me, and I race up there, you know, eager to see something. And I feel like I'm being watched, and I just snap, a circle of pictures. This is one. I'm using fill-in flash, so all of the branches kind of have a brightness to them, you know, because I'm using fill-in. I snapped this picture. Can anybody pick out anything interesting there? Talking about blending in. How about now? Anybody see anybody in the stick structure there watching me? A little bump there. I'll go a little closer. He's there. His left eye is almost, you can't almost see it because it's dark. The right eye is white because I'm using fill-in flash. He's holding a stick in front of his face. You can see his right hand up there to the, you know, to the right of the, or your left, kind of like this, holding it kind of like a cue stick. And he's putting those leaves in front of his face, occluding. All he's got is his eyes and the top of his head. But they're great at blending in. Now, I've got a comparison of one. Later at Arla's, one got within 15 feet of me, family group approached. But I just do a little comparison here. That is a spitting image of the one that got within 15 feet of me, if you want to know what, you know, they look like. Very similar on the head shape, even the hairlines. It's not a coincidence, folks, you know. These naysayers, you can't duplicate some of this stuff. It's what we call corroboration. In my first career was law enforcement, forensically, and it's just, they discount this stuff, and it's there. So, what are the chances? There, I've got him circled. You're going down a trail looking for one, and this is one of 360-degree directions. You're probably not going to see them, you know. There's a big reason they hide. Now, later, I did have a visual through binoculars. This guy here was very light colored, either gray or white. And when I told somebody, hey, I saw one, they said, oh no, they're not white, they're brown or whatever. This is, Arla would recognize this place. She had a Native American drum making workshop. I'd been out there 2 days trying to do the bait and trap, you know, get me a picture, I want to see them up close. And they ran me ragged with a few whoops and a few knocks, and they were probably having a blast. But these ladies sat down on a rock there, looking down at the creek, and one of the ladies happened to glance down and see this dark head peek out, and then go back behind there, and she grabbed her phone. This is Wendy Van. She gave me, you know, permission to use it, but she snapped a picture. Anybody pick him out yet? How about now? Now? Go Go a little closer. I'll go to the marked one. Look how well he blends in with the colors. His hand's kind of gray, but you can see his shoulder. You can see his head poking around. But what are the chances of somebody seeing him at that distance? You're not going to see him. They hide. They side peek. All right, I begged him to take me back here, and this is a little clip. There's the rock to the right, right? I took over an hour's worth of video to catch this 15, 20 seconds. There's my monocular. A little bit bad on the grade, but it's easy. I carry them both in my shirt pocket. There was movement all around. I was trying to catch one. Watch the lower left part of the circle. Jumps up. He's up a little higher looking at me. Now he's looking back, going back like he's talking to somebody. I readjust because I'm looking through a little 1x1 screen on the LED. It's a bright sunny day. And I say, man, I know I saw something there. I just don't know where he went. So I'll slow it down for you. I'd say the distance was about 100 yards. There he goes, moves. Now he's up a little. I don't know if he's in a tree or what, but he's looking back, looking down at somebody else, looking back. I'm just catching faint movement. I mean, what are the chances in that little gap? We heard them. They were all around down in there. And I may have missed other opportunities, but that's one enhanced. Some of the limbs are occluding his face. Looks very young or small, not so burly as some of them, that's kind of a funny look, but those aren't his eyes. You can see the top of his head. Some of the leaves are occluding the face. This one, he looks a little elfish, I think, but that's all movement in those frames that you saw. That's my favorite right there. Looks like kind of a samurai wrestler or something, but you can see that conical shape to the back of his head. I think he was talking or with another one. Caught that real brief. All right. This is in East Texas, Shelby County. Arla really helped Melba Ketchum in her early looking for answers, okay? I know she wouldn't mention that, people would call her name dropping, but we had gotten with Melba Ketchum on a lot. This land here was adjacent to her ranch area. I was out there. This subject, I could feel him watching. We were all down there getting ready to build a campfire. It was getting late in the afternoon. And I walked away and I said, okay, big boy, I can feel you watching me. Where are you? And I walked away from the group and I heard a whoop, a hoot. And I started setting up my little monocular and everything. And this is the video of it. It's a big guy up there, and it'll wobble. I've stabilized it some, but you'll hear our dialogue. Tim, the other guy, he doesn't see it, and I'm trying to explain to him where I'm looking up there.
Yeah. I don't know if it's anything. It's a dark shape up there in the trees.
Do you see the deer stand?
Yeah.
How far? Which direction from the deer stand?
If you go from the deer stand, same height, about 20 degrees to your right. There's a dark spot between the trees up there. Okay, if you put the binoculars down, Joker looks like it's moving. I'll be able to see it on the video. I'm thinking there's something up in the trees. See that? Go down the hill. You see that one tree that's kind of leaning?
I get the monocular off center, off the...
There's a bunch of them are straight, and if you... Oh, shoot.
It's a small one?
Yeah, a small one up
Yeah.
close to us. Go over another 20 feet from there. See that dark spot between the trees up there? Go back up in the trees. There, I got it back on video. It's... I don't know if it's moving or not, but I got a pretty good look at it. I got a good video of it.
He's in a thick tree. The thinner ones are being windblown.
I've got it. It looks like it's moving, but I don't know. It's a pretty good video. Yeah, I'm getting decent video.
Now I've got a second clip that's I've slowed down. It'll come up here in a second.
Comparison video of what I'd taken earlier.
There's some movement back there. I think there was more than one, but I was having problems getting him framed in. Melba Ketchum actually got one DNA sample taken at the base of this tree that I'll show you. I don't know how it came out. I wasn't kind of in the loop on that. There was that, what is it, Wally Hersham. I sat around the campfire and talked with Wally later. At the time, as you can understand, it's not like people saying, "Oh, there's a Bigfoot." It's kind of, well, what is it? I'm looking, you know. I think it, you know. A lot of times, like I said, they're not going to bounce out and say, "Hey, I'm Bigfoot. Hello," you know. I mean, I don't know if it's a badge of dishonor between the young ones or whoever, but being seen sometimes doesn't seem to be a good thing with them, you know. There's basically, I put a sketch to kind of give you an idea how the big guy was sitting in the tree. You know, it's a little saddle. And people say, "Oh, it looks like a bear." That's a facial shape. There's no snout there. And what I wanted to compare, and it didn't come out on the other one, hiding in Talihina, is the cheek structures are similar. Now, I had a 160-pound man the next week helping me identify the location, because any of you hunters know, you see a spot and you go through two dips and curve around, the whole topography changes. You're not sure, was it this tree or this area? So the only way we identified, I got back where I took the picture and had a guy walk up there and signal. But his shoulders, or the big guy's shoulders, was about 30% wider than that 160-pound man standing there. It wasn't a baby. It was pretty good size. And these are the trees. Once we located them, I've got several of these dogleg, crooked looking, you know, trees, which are very distinctive. They make a saddle, you know. And if you'll notice, there's scuff marks on the circle I have. Right here's where the big guy was sitting. Right there, kind of look like handlebars. They're scuff marks. I figure they go up and down those trees like a coconut harvester. They got long enough arms to do it, and I imagine they could get up and down those. The interesting thing here is a forester told me to get that dog leg formation, you've got to break the feeder branch off of a sapling. My question is, years ago when these things were saplings, were they intentionally broke to make these seats on a tactically high ridge? That would be, you know, intuitive. It'd be, you know, intellect and cognitive thinking. I could see nature maybe doing one here, but sporadically 3, possibly 4 or 5. It's not going to happen, folks. It was a great place. Sadly, foresters went in there and clear cut this stuff. Anyway, that's another. All right, I was in central Oklahoma, well, no, southeast Oklahoma. I had 5 newbies with me. I took them down to a river bottom. I had some of my pictures and stuff, selling some of my DVDs at the time. One of the guys came in and said, man, I'd love to go out with you sometime. I said, hey, this evening when we close down in a conference, I said, I'll take you down to the river bottom right here. He said, oh, they're down. I said, they come into camp at night. You know, people are skeptical and everything. So I've got five guys with me, and we catch one of them that was throwing stuff, walking away. Here's the video. Had to put some kind of music in the background. I really had dialogue on an audio, but there was stuff said that I don't think third parties would want me to publicly. Anyway. This guy here was catching up with us. He's got a little ring flashlight. He's stopping to look at a stick structure there, bedded down area. Even in the pitch black, they maintain cover. I mean, I don't know too many people that run around naked in the forest, not using a flashlight, but the thermal didn't lie. There was no clothing lines on that 7 or 8 foot subject. All right, next, Southern Missouri. I'm out with 4 different researchers. This is a sheer rock ledge, and there's 2 areas along that ledge that have a little alcove. This was taken a year later. You got to understand, folks, I'm going down a bumpy road, 4-wheel drive, washouts. I don't know where we're going, you know. We get out in a certain spot, the guy says, oh, okay, it's right here. Shuts his truck off, turns off all his lights, and I can hardly see my hand in front of my face. All I can hear is a creek running, you know, a little ways away. I don't know where the edge is. I don't know if I take 10 steps, I'm going to fall off down, you know. So I get my thermal out real quick, trying to get an idea of where I am, and I immediately focus on a subject watching us. This is it. I don't move much the whole hour. I get a lot of video here. Well, it's supposed to start. There we go. All right. Again, I got music. I had to give credit here. There's a lot of dialogue, rocks hitting, and again, third-party dialogue. This is an aerial shot to give you kind of idea of the topography and how thick it is. Can y'all see that pretty good? That's the day shot. Right in the middle there. Now some of the rocks and but there's something moving right there, and it looks like a head. I'm wondering what's over there, you know. And this area, folks, isn't by anything. It took effort to get in here. There was looked like an upright signature in the brush, and I keyed on it. It's kind of moving and swaying a little bit. I'm wanting to make sure it's moving because there's other gaps showing the rocks. And obviously the water, you can see the water there at the shoreline. All of that dark stuff above him is part of that cliff, that rock face. And that rock holds heat well into the night after it's been in the sun. That's an enhanced clip. Kind of looked like a hooded monk to me, but later, okay, he pulls back. Again, I took it over an hour. I don't want to show you an hour's worth, so I'm trying to take clips of what I took, but I'm almost picking out other areas. Of course, there was some to my right. You got to understand, rocks were landing around us, and I was distracted. I think there was a belly crawler, which I'll show later. Uh-oh, I happened to look over. Now that dark spot to the right is a tree about 20 feet in front of me, and some of its limbs are hanging down. But I catch this figure, and all of a sudden it jumps into the cave, and then it jumps back out again. It twists, it comes down. I think it was picking up rocks and piling them over there. I'm not really sure because there's vegetation on my side of plus there's limbs hanging down. I'm getting bits and pieces, but I'm making out head and shoulder. Now they're looking down. And I'm not moving because I didn't want to block it out, but I was aware. That's a big signature over there moving. You know, at first I'm thinking there's no way. Some people say, well, how do you know it isn't a prankster? When I show you the pictures, I showed you the pictures of the rock ledge. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, folks, but you know, anybody who just hangs out in the middle of nowhere on a steep ledge, if they fall, they may die, and they're going to do it just to mess with a prankster. I start noticing on the other side of that tree right there, other movement. And I even shortened this some. It's running a little longer than I wanted to, but on the other side of the tree, you'll see a head kind of in the vegetation. Thermals, just like, you know, vision, you can't penetrate something that's blocking the thermal image. You got to kind of, you know, it's just like visible. They'll hide. What I think is funny about it is they're aware of cover. They're aware. There's one forward picture or enhancement. This next one, look at the thick body. They've turned around, they're bending forward. Resembles Patty to the max. I mean, the shoulders, looks like Patty bending over there, you know, in a thermal signature. That's where I think they were getting the rocks. I've got one video of a rock flying by in front of me, but due to time, I can't show that. But I look back over and I don't know if there was some on my side, but folks, I'm not afraid of them, but I don't want a big hairy guy come sneaking up behind me. And I'd like to see him coming to me. I don't want him to come up and tap my shoulder or, you know. So I'm kind of aware of what's going on, and I looking around, you know, belly crawler. I know Arla would probably be more. I'm not afraid of them, but I just don't want to. I don't want to be startled by one. Yep. See how fast he jumped it back in that, and I'll have a day picture of it here in a second. Some of it may be blocked out by the limbs, but some of their movements almost looks like a video and fast forward. When they decide to really move, I mean, it's like I said, almost like a video. That's the day picture. That's what I was looking through. A lot of gaps and blocks. I didn't have the luxury the night before, you know, that night a year before to see it. But that's me looking at the general area. Now 3 of the guys wanted to go down to the creek. Watch how thick the vegetation is. And they're using those, you know, the dim red cap lights to look down at the little trail. They don't get very far, and the vegetation blocks them out. But even here, folks, those individuals use cover and concealment. I'm not sure how much they know we can see or not see, and they may know the whole banana. I'm not sure, you know. They may be that cognizant, but look at that. They disappear into the... Now they go down there and they get a rock thrown at them. I hear the rock hit, splash. So right here I'm getting movement, and I want to know what's up there. Is there a belly crawler right here? So I'm looking back. So I go back and turn the camera here in a second. Whoop! I see something on the other side of the tree. There's one sitting there. The one on the left's gone. That's an enhanced clip of him. He's sitting there with his legs spread on the ledge. It's a closer crop of it. He doesn't try to hide. I mean, he looks pretty casual to me, you know. There's where he was sitting. Another tree blocked out, but I couldn't tell how deep that little hole was, but it sure make a good get out of the rain, nobody mess with you. But there's nowhere, they go in and out of there in the pitch dark, you know, pretty good. This is a year later. I'm focusing in, looking at the brush line where the individual hid. I've looked at the ledges. But I start noticing off to the left here, it's not as steep. There's a lot of little caves and alcoves, and I'm thinking, man, would that be a great place for someone to hide? And while I'm taking this picture, it's raining. You'll see it when I focus in. But I'm looking around, you know, thinking, man, I'd like to get over there, but I really didn't want to get wet in ice cold water. And as I'm panning back, I look to an area where I feel like I'm being watched. So I'm zooming in. You'll start seeing the rain here when I get in a little closer. I'm sitting there in a slicker coat. But I'm noticing shadows down in this deep, I won't call it a cave, but a good alcove. Down there to the lower right. And it's hard. I didn't have anything to stabilize the camera, and when you zoom out, and that's better than my monocular rig, but still, now I've got a monopole or whatever it is. You know, you can put your camera on the end. But there's shadows moving in there. They're in the dark for the most part. That's one of interest. And look down there. I've got another circle down there, and I'll zoom in and show you. I don't know, you know. Now I do know the next two that I on my picture. That's that lower circle I was showing you. They're in the dark, but they're sitting there watching me. There's one face there. I don't know if it's showing up good here, and there's a second face there. using shade, using the light. Okay, I wanted to show you this here. Belly crawling. It's another tactic that they use. And the reason I'm showing you this, I'm in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. We've got alcohols. We've got, well, a lady gave it's a scream that'll, you hear it and your hair stands up. And apparently, whoever heard it would have taken that as dire, severe distress, the way this woman screamed, okay? It echoed and went out on a pristine lake. Immediately, we heard a faint owl call. Then we heard a stronger owl call. Then an even stronger owl call. And then one right on top of us that was up where we had parked the vehicles. It wasn't up in the trees. It was at ground level. I started seeing eye shine. So whoever it was localized and found where we were. I don't know how they do that, but they do it. But this is belly crawling, and here's one clip. You can see the elbow. He's in grass, so the thermal image is partially blocked. It's thin grass, but there's enough of the thermal image getting through. That's another, there's his elbow is out. So he's coming towards me, and then what he does is he turns, and I call that the Burt Reynolds pose. Okay, I may be over somebody's head, but the famous Burt Reynolds on the rug with, laying there, with, anyway. But something interesting about, he's still in the tall grass, but if he was facing me forward to throw anything, you've got to raise up. But if you roll to your side on an elbow, you can chunk rocks all day, sidearm, kind of like a soldier throwing a grenade. And that's what I think he was doing, was throwing. So there's kind of an enhanced clip for those of you that have a hard time seeing how there he is, So that's what I was looking at first. I couldn't figure out what the belly crawling was. This video has some audio, but I'm on a trail. I leave the group. I say I'm going to go back up the trail and see what's going on. Pitch black. I catch this kind of little horizontal. I'm thinking, what is that? Is that a hog? It's not tall, but it's behind, it's behind the Jeep. I'm looking at it, and I'm getting movement on each side of me. So you'll see me cut away and go from right to left when I start hearing something on the side of me, and I get a little bit, I'm not spooked, but like I said, I have to look down to walk forward so I don't trip over a rock. Now I look back up. Now he's turned sideways. I've noticed the shape has changed. I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking at there. It's just kind of a horizontal shape. I'm getting movement on the left and right side of me. One little caveat here. One of the ladies with us was a child psychologist, clinical psychologist. We had little ones bluff charging her. Why'd they pick her? But anyway, that's that. Let me move on. This is just a clip, two side peekers, Eastern Kentucky. Watched them for about 30 minutes. We were on folding chairs out in the middle of a roadway. They were just watching us. Curious. Again, curiosity. All right. This is video taken Central Texas. I'm with two BFRO investigators and another person. There was four of us. And that's an enhanced clip of the day watcher. You see his elbow. This tree was about 10 yards in front of us. He had moved. You can see partially the stump. And he's using the gap of that tree in front of him about 10 yards to hide. Cover. But he's watching not really watching us. He's looking to my left, and you'll hear this. We're trying to figure it. The BFR investigator sees the first movement. I'm keying in on something. We're discussing what he's looking at and what I'm seeing. And as we're discussing it, a lady who probably worked out and was in great shape, wearing a skin-tight spandex jogging suit, which I didn't notice, but anyway. I think this day watcher was watching her. You'll hear her jog by behind us on the low water bridge, but I think this young one was watching the lady day jogger. She might have went up that trail several days, and he was out there, kind of not doing his job, and I don't know. But anyway, that's his head. There's his elbow. All right, here's the video. Now there's some other activity there, but I didn't get a good video of it. You might even see the movement back there. They're documenting something else. Yeah, back there. Yeah, in front of him. It's there, but I'm not.
We're in the Sam Houston National Forest. One of the other researchers saw a movement. We may have a side peeker or day watcher.
Over there,
Right.
but you see you see that tree that's fallen over?
Right.
Underneath that, there was something that moved right to left.
Did you hear a rock jog?
Scared the crap out of me. I'm thinking there's one running down.
I was thinking, man, Sheila's running. That's what I thought. I thought Sheila was running.
She was running out there after it. She has no idea what she's doing.
She's running.
She better be able to run fast.
I don't know if I'm getting this or not.
Can you see right underneath that? See that tree
Yeah.
that's falling?
Yeah.
And then
Bill,
between-
look on my screen.
Between that tree that's falling and us, there's a little thin tree that's going straight up. Just to the right of that,
Yeah.
there's a black
Yeah.
object that looks like it's leaning out from behind that tree. You see that?
Look at my video. Can you see my video screen? You talking about that?
No, that doesn't look like it. It's not right next to that tree.
Okay.
So I zoom out and kneel down to try to
I
steady
gotta
it.
get me one of those tripods because I am.
Anyway, subject leaves. All right, that's the cover of my book. It's my encounters with the forest people, America's last free tribe. Midnight Owl is the name they gave me. It's right there. That's another story in itself. But anyway, it's on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle or hardback. I enjoy sharing, folks. So, Arla, I guess it's I know.